Hello my goblins and ghouls, my name is Steven. Modern 3D printer slicers are incredible, but they lack one feature that drives me crazy. So I built it. At Opula, we print a ton of parts. So many 3D printed parts. There are literally hundreds of 3D printed parts that go into every single Lumen PMP, and managing what needs to be printed and when, and all the file management and getting all those parts made is a huge pain in the ass. But the worst part by far of the whole process is updating the Gcode to every single printer in our farm manually. Now, some of our printers in our farm are wireless and they're connected over Wi-Fi, and from the slicer you can hit upload and it will just send the file to the printer. That's cool, but we have dozens of files to send that we have to send to every single printer, and you have to click upload and let it run, and then once it's done you have to click upload again to a new printer and let it run, and it takes literal hours to move it all over. So what we've been doing so far is just taking all of the SD cards out of the printer and connecting them to our computer and copying all the files over. That still sucks. I poked around a bit into some modern slicers to see if there's like a farm upload feature, and there really isn't what I'm looking for. Bambu Slicer has a new feature that came out a little bit ago that lets you have multi-device support, which is only up to 6 printers, and it lets you send and start a print on a bunch of printers. But we don't want to do that. We want to send a ton of pre-sliced files up to the printer that we can then start manually from the printer's UI. I just want to have a folder of sliced Gcode and send it up to every single printer. And I don't think that exists. If I'm wrong, tell me in the comments, but I couldn't find that anywhere. So I made a tool that does exactly this. Turns out that Bambu Labs P1P printers actually have an FTP server running on them. FTP stands for File Transfer Protocol, which is just a way of sending files between computers. And they leave it open and exposed. Some folks on the Bambu Labs forum actually discovered how to connect to this. They use like a desktop app called FileZilla. So the tool that I made just connects to all the printers over FTP and automatically uploads every single Gcode file in a folder. All right, so here's the tool. I'm gonna run it from the command line, but it's just the same thing as double clicking the app that I packaged with the repo, so you can just do that too. When it comes up, I get this little window and I can choose my settings JSON file. This pretty much says what printer has what connection settings. So here's an example of it. You can see printer 1, printer 2. All you need is the IP address and the password that's in the UI of the printer. And this will probably be different once we eventually roll in other kinds of support for different kinds of printers as well. So I'm gonna select my file and open it up. And you can see it immediately imports all the printers that we have on our line. We have 8. So I can actually select only certain ones and it will only send it to those specific printers. And then I'm gonna pick the folder I wanna upload. We're gonna print some Lumen parts for v3.2.2. I'm gonna go to my slice. I'm gonna do all the white printed parts. There's only 4 here. And now I'm gonna hit send to farm, and it's gonna send all 4 of those files in that folder to the 3 printers that I selected. So I'll hit send to farm. You can see it skipped 1 and 2 because I don't wanna upload it to it. And now it's connecting the printer 3 and it's sending up the file. And now we'll wait and it's gonna send everything up. So now I could be doing something else while it's just bulk uploading all this stuff for me. If you're uploading a ton of stuff to a lot of printers, you could even do this overnight if you really wanted to. All right, sending the last one to printer 3. Cool, it sent that one. It's skipping 4 and now it connects to the next printer, printer 5. And there it is. Let's go check and see if it actually did that. So we're looking for white prints on 3, 5, and 6. Let's go see. All right, so here is printer 6. It's printing some static camera feet right now. But if we look in, look at that. White bottom, white top, white board, all uploaded automatically. And of course, I made this tool open source, so if you want to download it and use it for yourself, find some of my bugs, fix some of my bugs, it's all in GitHub. There's a link in the description if you want to go check it out. I have a fully packaged .app like application for Macs, but for Windows and Linux, it's just a little bit of command line work and you're up and running too. So right now the upload tool just supports FTP servers, but we also have a bunch of Prusa minis and I want to get support for those as well. We don't have them upgraded with the Wi-Fi plugin, so I got to figure out that whole thing and get them up and running, and then I want to add support for those. And at home I have a TAS 5 running Octoprint and a Voron 0.1 with Clipper, so I want to have support for those too, so I'll try and roll those into the tool as well. I want it to just be a good ubiquitous tool for uploading files to a farm. Just bulk upload. I think it'd be so cool. It's already really cool. The first time I got it working, I was blown away it actually did it. Like, I didn't believe it until I went over to the printer and I saw all the files in there. It's really cool. And it still takes a minute because the servers are like not fast, especially if you're printing at the same time, which I don't recommend. But eventually, like, this shouldn't be a separate tool. I would imagine at some point this gets merged into slicers. This little crappy tool that I made is just a stopgap until inevitably there's like built-in farm support, especially for support across FTP servers and Octoprint and Clipper and all their different methods of handling file sending. I think this will definitely happen as print farms become a little bit more ubiquitous and more people, their interface with a 3D printer is having a ton of them and managing a ton of them. Or maybe not. Maybe slicers really only just want to focus on sending to one printer or maybe a little bit of multi-device support, and this really should be a separate thing. I don't know, let me know what you think in the comments if you think this should be rolled in or it should kind of stay a separate entity. In the meantime, it works pretty well. But that is just updating the print files. The other huge part of this, of running a print farm, is figuring out what to print and when. So far, we've been incredibly hand to mouth with this. Like when we just see a part is running low, we run more of it. And it's been kind of fine so far, but there's been a lot of emergency printing we had to do, realizing, oh, wait, we're actually really low on this part. We need to print a bunch of it. And it's just not workable. It needs to be better. Because of this, I implemented a Kanban system for our print farm. Kanban means signboard in Japanese, and it's a method of sending a signal when something is low, but with still enough stock left that it isn't an emergency. It's like a flag saying, hey, we're gonna get low soon, now you need to restock this. I'll put a link in the description where you can read more about it and a couple of videos about Kanban. It's a whole existing system, it's a whole thing, it's a rabbit hole if you wanna dive into it. For example, this is a pump mount. It's one of the many parts that go into aluminum PNP. We have a bin where we hold all of the pump mounts. There's only one bin to hold pump mounts. When the level of these parts gets beneath the red line that I've taped inside this bin, that is a signal that we need to print more. Whoever took that part that brought the level beneath the red line, they take out the Kanban card from the little slot on the front side of the bin, and they go and they put it on the rack by the print farm. And then they just go back to what they were doing. They don't change what they were doing. There's no emergency detour. They just send the signal and keep working. There's an explicit point that is triggered of, oh, we need more. And the amount that's left underneath that red line, we know it's enough to last us long enough that we can print more. We have enough time, it's not gonna be a rush. And now whoever's running the print farm knows exactly what to print. They look at the Kanban card and it tells them what material, what color, what build plate to put on the printer, everything they need to know to run that part. And of course, all the files for running it are already on every single printer from the upload tool that I made. When the print is done, they take it over to the processing area, which has top-down lighting from both sides, so it's really good for getting good QC eyes on the part, making sure it's ready to ship or be integrated into another subassembly. Then they put them into a delivery bin, bring it back to the main repository for where those parts are, and dump those new parts into the bin. They keep doing this process of printing the part until the part level gets up to the green line, and that limit is saying, all right, we've printed enough, it's gonna last us for a while, you don't have to worry about printing this part anymore. And then they can take the Kanban card from the rack and put it back in the bin. This is just a formalized way of structuring, hey, we need this part, and making sure that the point at which that is triggered, we know we have enough parts to last us for a while. No more emergency printing, no more last minute, oh no, we gotta figure it out. It's just all pre-baked. We have at least a build and a half of parts in stock, no matter what. So you might be wondering, why is this just for the print farm? There's also a ton of other parts that go into a machine like the Lumen PNP that we still need to keep track of inventory for. What about the belts and the tubing and the bolts and the motors and pumps and all that other stuff? Well, we use a piece of inventory management software called Aligny, which keeps track of how many of each type of part we have purchased and how many of those parts are in each machine. So based on our remaining stock, the lead times of the parts, and our production rate, we can actually tell exactly when we have to buy more parts to get them in time to make sure that we can keep up with production. So it just kind of does this whole system for us automatically. It literally lets us know, it sends us an alert, hey, based on your current production, your current stock, and the lead time, you're gonna have to buy this part in the next 3 days, otherwise you're gonna have to stop the line. But because we print our parts ourselves, we don't track it in Aligny because, you know, every couple hours a print is done, I have to crack open Aligny, find the part, make an inventory adjustment. We're flying through parts, so it's way harder to keep track of that kind of thing in a piece of software. A Kanban card is like way easier to just manage that outside of a computer. We also change and uprev the 3D printed parts really often, so we want to keep a really trim stock in-house pre-printed, because if we do want to uprev to a new version, which we do really often, I don't want to have to toss a bunch of parts. I want to keep the least amount of stock that's still reasonable on hand. With stuff like bolts and pumps, that stuff is not changing nearly as often, so we can buy a lot more of it. We don't need the Kanban system for that. All right, that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. But before I go, I want to thank this video sponsor, PCB Way. PCB Way makes all of the prototype boards for every single thing that we make here at Opulo, and they are excellent. The thing that's most important to us is that we have a really quick turnaround for getting these boards in, because every time we make an iteration, however long it takes to get those boards in, it increases the time of iteration so much. From the time I place the order to the time the boards are in my hand is almost always under a week. If you're looking for a board shop, I highly recommend PCB Way. Thank you so much to PCB Way for sponsoring this video. Some folks on the